Hello and welcome back everybody. Today we're going to talk about My Hero Academia chapter 260. Right away we get into the main meat, we see how they're confronting Ujiko or Shiga, and things just kind of escalate from that point onward, learning about the whole quirk mystery regarding Ujiko and all the Nomus. We get some big shit going on with MIRKO, which I honestly think was the best part of the chapter, because MIRKO is one of those characters who was said to be one of the top 10s, and she was one of the most hyped up ones by the fandom. Yet she hadn't really done much, but now we're actually seeing her doing stuff, which I actually kind of like to see, because that means that maybe that hype is actually going to lead to something, Now we might actually get to see her being a popular character for a reason, and that is actually something that I really liked, because initially, I didn't hate her character. I thought, the hype surrounding her character, it was based on absolutely nothing. She was just a bunny girl, obviously people are gonna jump right on that, despite the fact that there's absolutely nothing to really latch on to. But now we actually get something to latch on to, because what this chapter offered us was actually some really good content, in my opinion. And MIRKO is a character that I can say for certain right now that I can actually end up liking her. Obviously, we didn't really get to see everything regarding this fight yet, because it's just sort of starting. They're just sort of invading the hospital and she's about to start fighting. But yeah, I can definitely see her becoming a character that I can actually say that I like, unless she dies very soon, which I think is quite likely, but I hope she doesn't. Now, the reason I say it's likely that she may be dying is, of course, the fact that Shigaraki is in that same building along with Ujiko and MIRKO, so there's a good chance that Shigaraki is going to wake up early and, he's going to have to fight MIRKO, and if he does fight MIRKO, I think MIRKO will die. Not just because he's the main villain, but because they have to demonstrate his newfound power, even if he does wake up earlier than expected, against someone that actually has some kind of position and some sort of credibility behind her abilities. She is part of the top 10 pro heroes, and who better to demonstrate his power on than her or someone else in the top 10, and I don't think it's gonna be Endeavor. That wouldn't make any sense. Endeavor is someone that you gotta save for someone like Dobby if he dies at all. I mean, we don't really know if Endeavor's gonna die, but if he does die, I feel like it's very appropriate that the one responsible is Dobby and no one else. So MIRKO dying at the hands of Shigaraki is something that I can actually see happening very soon. I don't think it's going to be a no diff at all. I think there's going to be some effort if they do fight, but I don't think it's going to be a situation where MIRKO actually wins or probably not even survives. I think she is probably in a really tough spot that she's going to have some issues getting out of, but that's assuming that Shigaraki and she fights. I mean, there is probably some possibility that Johnny didn't exactly die, but he did get squashed by the looks of it, so it's looking kind of dark in that spot, because obviously getting out of there kind of depends on Johnny's warping quirk, and he was pretty much crushed by this rubble, and I don't really know if he can survive that or even use his quirk for that matter. And if he does use his quirk, he's gonna have to use it in a way where he can use it on both Ujiko and Shigaraki, and we don't really know the limitations or restrictions or anything about that quirk on how it can be used, so I don't really know what we can expect from that, to be honest. I think warping out of there is out of the question at this point, at least for Shigaraki, mostly because he just happens to be at that one same place. I don't think it's a coincidence that he's there and that the heroes actually invaded that hospital. I think it's completely on purpose, obviously. I mean, the author knows what he's doing, that these ended up in the same place, and there's going to be some conflict, because the way I see it, this fight is pretty much the trigger point for this whole war. It is not the end of the war, it's not the climax or anything, it's just starting. This is probably going to be a pretty big arc in my opinion, because it's going to be one of the more significant points in the story, assuming what people are speculating, me included, is correct, and that this is going to be the finale of this part of the story, and this is going to trigger a new saga, if you will, a more villain-centered saga, which I think would be really cool to see. And if that does happen, then Shigaraki is obviously going to end up doing some completely crazy things, probably starting very soon, and probably starting with MIRKO. Let's go back to the whole Ujiko thing though, before MIRKO burst into the morgue and found all the Nomus and found the real Ujiko. Let's talk about the fake one and what happened with him and Endeavor and Aizawa and President Mike and everyone else at the start of the chapter, because this is obviously also a really focused part of the chapter, something that is supposed to be a very significant thing, especially when it comes to our knowledge about the Nomus and what kind of science Ujiko is using in order to create them, and all of that turns out to be what looks to be artificial quirks or replicated quirks. We did see how Ujiko, despite being looked as quirkless in the register, he displayed a quirk which touched upon anti-aging in the sense that he seemingly were a lot older than what he initially appeared to be, which is obviously the work of a quirk. We don't really know what quirk it is, we don't know the name of it, we don't know if it's his own or if he's applied it to himself. It probably has, considering the register did say he was quirkless, which I don't think is false. I mean, if he was quirkless as a child, there's no reason why that would change naturally. If anything, this is a quirk that has been given to him, or he has given it to himself through experimenting, like he has done with a lot of nomus and all that. Now, one thing that I kind of also want to talk about is the whole thing with Hawks, because Hawks is in a pretty bad place right now as far as I'm concerned, because his cover has pretty much been blown, I think. The reason I say that is because they have now invaded this hospital. Ujiko is there, Shiga is there and everything, obviously, and they know that Hawks is potentially a mole. They didn't really know for certain, like some of them have suspected it, and now it's pretty much come out in the blue that someone has revealed their position, and they're gonna start suspecting people. Hawks is definitely gonna be high on that list, so I think Hawks is actually in a pretty dark place. He's probably gonna have to find a way to escape wherever he is. I think it said he was in some mountain area, and he needs to get out of there because he will die if he doesn't. Personally, I really hope Hawks does not die, because he's my favorite character in My Hero Academia right now, so having him die already would be kind of a shame, to be honest. I think he should be alive for much longer, especially since he's kind of the younger generation. He's not like old like Endeavor, All Might and all of those. He's actually quite young. He's only 22 years old, maybe 23 now, I'm not quite sure, but at least 22 at the time of his introduction. And I think I want to kind of see more of this character. I want to see him flourish even more, even after this arc. So I really hope he doesn't bite the dust already, though, as I said, this arc is really not looking bright for him, especially if it's been blown this early on. And obviously, someone's gonna have to kind of relay that information to someone close to Hawks and everyone else in the Liberation Front, but I think they have means of doing that, and I think quite soon Hawks is gonna have to really work on an escape. Anyway, gonna end this review here, kind of a short review this week, but that's just how it's gonna have to be. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. What do you think about this chapter 260? How do you think things are gonna turn out with Mirko, with Hawks, and even other people as well? Would really like to know what you think down below in the comments. And as always, if you did, be sure to Detroit smash that like button if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. This has been Chaotic Plus, and remember, Toga is waifu, Toga is laifu.